Hey there, welcome to episode 93 of Mike's Collection. I'm Mike, and the part of my collection that I'm going to be talking about today is just some of my new stuff. I've actually got quite a lot of new stuff over the past couple of weeks. It's kind of just piling up in little stacks in the corners of my room here. And I'm eager to show them to you guys because generally when things come in, I used to just tear right into them and then I could play with them and put them on the shelf. Now it's this whole process where I can't open it until I get it on camera, and I can't play with it obviously until I open it, and then I can't put it away until I've shown it to you guys. So when I buy stuff, if I don't have time to shoot the video, then I don't get to open it, I don't get to play with it, I don't get to put it away, which ultimately just leads to a big mess when I get busy with other things. So I've got a lot of stuff to show you. I'm probably not going to show it all in this one video. I think I'm going to break it up into a couple of smaller videos. And I'm also going to try a new format for this video. I'm going to try a little split screen stuff and see how that works. The main reason for that was I found sometimes I'd get a toy and I'd put it on screen and then I would just talk over the toy, and then I realized, sometimes the toy was just sitting there for like 4 minutes, no moving, and I thought maybe that's boring for you guys to watch. So I don't know if having me on screen at the same time as I'm talking about the toy will help. It's really not an ego thing. I just didn't want to lose your attention by just having a toy statically sitting there on a table for 3 or 4 minutes while I talked about it. So I'll get into the new toys here in a second. I just want to quickly mention that this is episode 93. I've been doing this show now for about a year and a half. And, it's been rewarding. I enjoy doing it. I appreciate everybody that tunes in and watches and likes and comments and all that stuff. So please continue to do that. So I'm coming up to episode 100 pretty soon. I'm probably maybe 2 months away from it if I keep doing an episode a week. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do for episode 100. It's kind of not a big deal. It's just another episode, but it feels like a milestone, so I want to commemorate it in some way by doing something just a little bit different. So one of the things I had thought about doing was asking you guys, my viewers, if anybody is interested in coming on the show and maybe just talking about your favorite toy or something along those lines. So it would probably just be a segment of the show where if you're interested, you can maybe comment below. I'll get in touch with you. We could maybe just do a couple of minutes Skype call. You could show me your favorite action figure out of your collection, or tell me what you're excited about coming out this year. Something along those lines. We can figure it out. Maybe some of you guys will have some ideas that you can pitch to me on what I should do for my 100th episode, and maybe I'll totally change my mind anyway. But that's kind of one of the things I'm thinking about. So if it's something that you think you'd be interested in and joining me on the show for a couple of minutes to talk about toys, then let me know, and we'll see if we can get a Skype or a Zoom or something like that going that we can talk back and forth. So having said that, let's get right into the new toys. So the first one I'm going to talk about is this Astro Train reaction figure. Now, reaction figures, so these are produced by Super 7, and I've got quite a few of them. It's not a collection that I really wanted to go crazy on. Like, I'm part of a Facebook group that just collects reaction figures. And some people have these gigantic collections. And it's only then that you realize how many of these things Super 7 has made. Because there's a lot. But I've only picked up a few here and there. I really like the way they do the vintage style packaging with like the individual character art on the front here. And so when I've bought reaction figures in the past, whether it be I've got like the Boondock Saints up there, I've got the Crow, I've got Scarface, some of the Universal monsters. Usually what I do is I just take them and I put a little pin and I pin them up on my wall like so. And that's all there is to it. But when I started collecting these Transformer reaction figures, this is the first time that it was a series of reaction figures that I wanted to collect completely. Not just buy one or two characters of. And since it was becoming it was quickly becoming a big collection, because the first wave had 6 figures and then the second wave had 8. You can see all them on the back of the packaging here. So here's the 8 figures from wave 2, the 6 figures from wave 1. So I got all of wave 1, and then I pre-ordered all of wave 2 a couple of months back. And Then I got a notification from Big Bad Toy Store where I had pre-ordered them, and they said 7 of the 8 are in stock now. And they have an option there where you can let things sit for a while if you want to kind of build up your pile of loot before they ship it to you. That allows you to save on some shipping. So they told me 7 of my items were in stock, and they said, do you want us to ship it now or do you want to sit on it? And I thought it was kind of weird that one figure was delayed. So Astro Train here was the one figure that wasn't in stock. So I thought, well, maybe that's just a day or two delay. So I waited a few days, no notification about Astro Train being in stock. So I said, you know what, ship my items. And then it took a day or two before I got a notification that said your items have now shipped. And literally the next day they said Astro Train was in stock. So I could have said, okay, now ship me Astro Train, but the idea behind the whole pile of loot is to save on shipping. So I wasn't going to have them ship me this one reaction figure because it probably would have cost me $20 in shipping just for this alone. So I figured I have to wait now for a couple of my other pre-orders to get in stock, and then I'll have them send me that. And so that's what finally occurred, and now I have my Astro Train. So I've had the rest of these figures for, I don't know, a month and a half, 2 months. So yeah, they're all up, displayed on the wall, and now I can add him to the collection. But yeah, as I was saying before, this is the first line that I want to collect completely. And since I've got this expansive line of Transformers, it just seems a real shame to be spending all this money on these things, have this big expansive collection, and not be able to play with them. If this was the only Transformer I was buying, I could handle this being a display piece and I'll put it up there. But once I've got a whole collection of them, I just really want to be able to fiddle around with them. So what I've done with these, which is nothing I've done with previous reaction figures, is I took my X-Acto knife and I slit open the packaging so I can pull these guys out and show them to you in a little bit more detail, and that way I can fiddle around with them a little bit, and then I can still tuck them back into their cards and hang them on the wall, and nobody's the wiser. So I've already done that with Astro Train. So you can see here I've slit the card, and now I can just slide the little tray right out of there, and here's Astro Train. Take him out of his little plastic bed there. And here we go. So with all these reaction figures, they are the idea behind them is that they're supposed to be done in the style of old 70s and 80s figures. Probably the most famous type of figure in this style would be the original Kenner Star Wars figures. So 5 points of articulation, so their arms forward and backwards, their legs forwards and backwards, and their head with a slight, very slight swivel. You can see because he only turns his head just a little bit from side to side. And that's it. And then just like with the old Star Wars figures, they do have an accessory. So Astro Train, and I think all the Transformers have come with one weapon. So he's got a little gun there that comes out of his hand. Let's see that there. So there we go. So there's Astro Train. Now, this character, he originally came out in, I think it was 1985 in the original Transformers line. And him and Blitzwing were the first triple changers, which means they had 3 different modes. Because most Transformers, you probably know, they go from a robot into a vehicle. Well, these guys went from a robot to one vehicle to another vehicle. So Astro Train, he turned into a spaceship, and he also turned into a locomotive. And so that was pretty cool. I had the original Astro Train when I was a kid. I no longer do, unfortunately. I got rid of most of my Transformers around when I was about 12 or 13, except for my 2 or 3 favorite figures. But I've said it on here before, I don't necessarily regret getting rid of the Transformers. Sure, I wish I had them, because for me to reacquire them now, I'd be paying quite a bit more money. They actually just recently re-released the vintage Astro Train, and you can buy them at Walmart, so it's an exact reproduction as far as the toy in the box, but he's $60, and I probably sold mine for $2 back in the day, so that's kind of a bummer. But the reason that I did get rid of my vintage Transformers is because I never liked how they were big blocky things. They often didn't look the way the characters looked in the cartoon. They were hard to play with. I didn't really care that they transformed. I liked the robots. And oftentimes they were really stiff and just big chunky things. So that might seem kind of weird that now I collect these things, because this is also kind of big, chunky, and he doesn't move very well. But the real appealing thing about the reaction figures to me is the fact that they do look exactly like the characters looked in the cartoon. That's what this look is based on, and I think they pull it off, really well. So I'm really pleased with Astro Train. Since I got rid of the vintage one, the only Astro Train that I have in my collection is the 2016 version, which, where is he? Here he is. So this is the 2016 Titans Return Astro Train. And now you might think these guys look a little different. Like, they're similar. Like, you both see they got that like yellow block on their head. The design is similar. They've got that wing silhouette coming out behind them there. But the color schemes, this is something Astro Train has always had. He's always been available in the two different colors, even dating back to the original toy. There was one available in the dark gray, and then one available in the light gray or white. So it's kind of nice that I've got this guy. This is kind of the default Astro Train on my Transformers shelf. And now with the reaction figure, I've got the other version represented in my collection as well. So there you go. That's Astro Train. Let's move on to the next thing. So the next new figure that I'm going to talk about is Mothra. And this is the Mothra from the recent Godzilla movie, King of the Monsters. So this was produced by NECA. So they come in the same style packaging as all the NECA Godzillas. So you get a nice picture of Mothra on the front. There's a little bit of a synopsis of the movie on the side. On the back, you get a shot of the actual figure, as well as it shows you some of the other figures in the line. This side here just gives you a couple of the selling features of the figure, such as its articulated wings and its 12.5-inch wingspan. Now, again, with all these NECA Godzilla figures, they have kind of a Velcro flap on the box, so you can kind of open it up like a book. Inside, you see a picture of the figure again, and the figure would be inside there, but I've already popped her out of here, so we'll take a look at her in a second. Now, Mothra is not one of my favorite kaiju characters. Like, I'm a huge Godzilla fan. I have been since I was a kid. I own all of the Godzilla movies, and I buy a lot of Godzilla figures. But Mothra is definitely one of my least favorites, because the way she's always been presented before is she's just a big fuzzy moth. She doesn't look cool, and she doesn't look very threatening. So yeah, just kind of unexciting. Even long before these new Godzilla movies came out, I have two young nephews, and they know all the Godzilla characters because I have a Godzilla video game on my GameCube, and they play it all the time. It's Godzilla, I think, Destroy All Monsters or something. And you can play as all these cool characters, so they know who Destroya is and Ghidorah is. But Mothra is not even a playable character, because how could you really play with and fight with Mothra? She's just she flies by in the background every once in a while. She's a boring character. And yet she has appeared in more movies than any other creature other than Godzilla. Like, just going through my Godzilla DVD library. So, this figure is based on the new movie, King of the Monsters. Now, unfortunately, Mothra gets left off of the packaging here. She just shows up. There's a little shot over there on the back of the packaging. But other than that, these are all the Godzilla movies that she appears in, and that's just what I could tell from looking at the covers. And she's probably in some of the other ones too, and not featured on the cover. So first off, I've got Mothra's trilogy, so this is all three Mothra movies in one set. Then you can see where Mothra is. Mothra's flying down here. This is a 2-movie set, so you got a little bit more Mothra there. Now this one here, Destroy All Monsters, you see Mothra in her larva mode. In a lot of movies, she usually starts out this way, as kind of just a worm, and then she evolves into her moth self. Even in the newest movie, you saw that. They originally opened up her cocoon, and she was just like a worm, and then she later evolved into Mothra. So here on Godzilla Tokyo SOS, you see the, I think both modes. Yeah, so you get the worm Mothra there, and then you've got Mothra there. Here is Godzilla versus Mothra. So this is the first time these two ever met. Godzilla versus the sea monster, and then you get just Mothra hanging around there. She kind of became an ally of Godzilla. She often just shows up and helps him out. Same thing as in the new movie, King of the Monsters. There's probably a lot of people that maybe haven't seen all of these movies, but you've probably seen the new one, I hope. Again, there's Mothra. So same as in that movie, she showed up as kind of an ally and helped Godzilla out. And then this one here, we've got Mothra and King Ghidorah. And yeah, there's Mothra in there too. And then on some of the other movies, like you see, this is Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. Mothra doesn't appear anywhere on the box. But with some of these movies, they give you a little guide on what creatures appear in the movie, what kaiju, and you see Mothra listed there as the third monster featured in this movie. Not all of the DVDs have that little reference guide there, but so I'm not sure. I think she's appeared in 16 different movies, and I probably just showed you 10 of them there. So there's lots of Mothra out there. But when NECA put out these figures for this particular movie, they initially put out a Mothra in the colors she's first seen to have, which looks kind of like a monarch butterfly. She's got these big orange wings, and I saw that figure around and I passed on it. If it had been another kaiju, I might have been more keen to pick it up, but because it's Mothra, she's not my favorite, and also she's the same price as the Godzillas. So a Godzilla from this set costs anywhere between $30 to $40, depending where you pick it up. And this is what a Godzilla looks like. You know, he's kind of big, he's heavy, you know, he's like 6 inches tall, he's 12 inches wide when you've got his tail here. You know, he's a pretty cool figure. And then Mothra, let's grab her here. Here's Mothra. So sure, she's got that impressive wingspan, but what it boils down to is that's Mothra. That's the Mothra figure. And, you know, this is $40 and so is this. And it's just, I just couldn't justify the price to buy this little bug at the same price as this Godzilla. So I passed on that initial Mothra figure. But as time has gone on, I've kind of regretted not getting it. I thought, you know what? They don't make a lot of Mothra figures, especially nice, good quality ones. Often a lot of the Godzilla toys that you find around are big, hollow rubber toys. They're kind of cheap, and yet not necessarily cheap in price. You still end up paying like $20 to $30 for these things, but they're basically like dog toys. That's what a lot of my old Godzilla figures are like, these hollow rubber figures that don't move. They're not articulated. So I have a Mothra, actually. I can cut to a picture of Mothra, but same thing. It doesn't move. It's just a big, hollow, rubbery, soft rubber thing that I've got tacked to the wall up there. So I didn't buy the initial one, but then I thought, you know what? I should have maybe got Mothra. I'll probably regret it down the road if I don't get it. And then I got a second chance because NECA released this version, which is the kind of the bioluminescent, this blue one that kind of has like an eerie glow about it. And so this one, since they re-released it, it was now available in stores everywhere. As the other one was I couldn't find it anywhere. So yeah, this one was readily available. So I snagged it when it came out. And yeah, she's pretty cool. Like the figure itself is small. Like it is articulated. So its back legs move. Its front legs move. So you can pose her around a little bit. She has another little set of small legs here, which I don't think are articulated. The wings are articulated, so the big ones, you can see how they can go up like that, and they can spread out. And even the little small wings here, they're articulated as well, so you can move those up and down. And yeah, so she's not a bad little figure. And you actually do get a little bit more bang for your buck than what I'm showing you here. She does come with a display stand, and the display stand is of her cocoon, and then you've got this big clear rod that you can put her on, and she snaps into it relatively well. Hopefully I can get her in there okay right now. Just kind of snaps around her waist. Yeah. So once you get her in there, she stays up there pretty good. So you know I can move this around and she's not falling off. And so there you go. So there's Mothra. And the other thing I found appealing about this Mothra is because she's got this kind of blue bioluminescent glow, is it matches up with the Godzilla figure that I have from that movie. Is I passed on the initial Godzilla as well, which was just the big standard kind of dark gray Godzilla. But then their secondary version of Godzilla they released has that blue bioluminescence when he's kind of all powered up and ready to shoot his atomic blast. So I thought these two looked really nice together on the shelf. And yeah, came out pretty good. So, is she worth $40? I don't know, but, you know, how many Mothra figures are there going to be? And actually, I just recently learned that NECA has lost the license to making Godzilla figures, which sucks because I was a little late to the party with the NECA Godzillas. They've been making these things for several years now, and I didn't jump on board right away, only because I had so many other Godzilla figures made by the cheaper companies, the big hollow rubber Godzillas. And these Godzillas, they were a little small. Most of my other Godzillas, even though they're kind of cheap, they're, you know, twice as big as this at least. So NECA was making these 6-inch Godzilla figures, and I wasn't sure if I needed a Godzilla that small. But after I kept seeing their output, and they were, you know, they were really nice figures, and I actually realized, you know what, if I want to build a little army of Godzillas, because they were making Godzillas from all the different movies, so all of his different looks, this was the affordable way to do it. At like $30 a pop, I can manage that. Plus, I can find shelf space for them. If I wanted all my Godzillas to be, you know, this big, they'd be costing me twice as much, and they would take up twice as much space. So eventually, I embraced the NECA Godzillas and, you know, the other characters. And yeah, so for the last 2 years or so, I've been buying these up. I've got a bunch of them. And yeah, now I'm kind of bummed to learn that NECA has lost the license. Not so much because I felt I needed a bunch more Godzillas, but mostly because I was looking forward to the prospect of them maybe making more of Godzilla's, you know, friends and enemies. Maybe we could get a Megalon or a Mecha Godzilla and stuff like that. But yeah, it doesn't look like it's happening. Maybe with the new Godzilla vs. Kong movie coming out, maybe they'll have another shot at it. But there's already cheaper Godzilla toys showing up on shelves made by another crappier company. And yeah, so that might be the way it is going forward with Godzilla figures. So it's even more of a reason to pick this one up if you find it, because we're probably not going to be treated to this quality of Godzilla figures for a little while. Now, speaking of NECA Godzilla figures, I have a Godzilla to show you. So I already had the blue kind of atomic blast Godzilla, and now I've got the burning Godzilla. So if you've seen the movie, spoiler alert, at one point Godzilla's down and out, and Mothra basically sacrifices herself to give her power to Godzilla, and then Godzilla is really fired up and he's able to win the day. So here you see a picture of burning atomic crazy Godzilla. This side here you just get some of the selling features about, you know, the I can't read it backwards. So he's got a hinged jaw, he's 12 inches from head to tail, yada yada yada. Picture of the figure on the back along with the other figures available in the line, and the same little synopsis on the side of the box that the Mothra figure had. And inside, again, you get that Velcro book, picture of the figure there. I've already popped the figure out, and let's take a look at it. So, here is Godzilla. So this Godzilla, I think, is really cool because he stands out quite a bit from the other Godzillas on my shelf. Most of the Godzillas are obviously really dark gray, that kind of, I don't know, greenish gray that most people associate with Godzilla. But it's kind of nice when you get a chance to get one that adds a little color to the shelf. And I've got a couple ones in this style with kind of the blue effect for when he's powered up. But this is the first burning Godzilla that I've picked up. There was another version, the first time that Godzilla experienced this kind of the burning power was in one of the 90s movies. But I didn't like the way that looked so much. It just kind of had like orangey chunks kind of glowing on him. It wasn't this full, you know, complete orange paint job like we saw in King of the Monsters. So yeah, I really like the way this figure turned out, and I like that he looks different from all the other Godzillas. As far as the sculpt of the figure, I think it's the same as this one. Don't quote me on that. They might have changed something. But they look pretty similar. So everything from the head to the fins to the tail, everything looks to be about the same. Which would make sense because there's it's the same character from the same movie even. So as far as articulation goes, it's the same. It's a pretty standard for these Godzillas. So his arms up and down, He turns at the elbow. He's got some good range of movement at the elbow, actually. His wrist turns. He turns at the waist. He's got a joint at the neck, but it's really hard to turn because of the fins. His head also turns. And then, as advertised on the box, he's got the hinged jaw. So you can see his little tongue in there when you open his mouth. Then he's got another joint kind of at the waist. And then in both legs, forward, backward. He's got a joint at the knee. It looks like he got a good range of movement at the knee, but he's kind of stiff there, and I don't want to force it. And then he's also got some movement on the foot. And then there's multiple joints on the tail. So there you go. That's all pretty standard stuff for Godzilla. The thing that really makes this thing stand out is the paint job. And yeah, as far as I know, there's never been another Godzilla figure by any company to sport a paint job quite like this. I don't know, kind of like an autumn colored Godzilla. I think he's quite nice. So yeah, I'm happy to add this guy to my Godzilla collection. So keeping with the theme of this episode, so far we've got Transformer. So even though the figure was small, he's supposed to be a big robot. Now we've got big monsters. So now I've got another big robot to show you. But he's not your typical Jaeger per se. So this here is the Iron Giant. This figure was produced by Diamond Select Toys. And this guy is awesome. This guy here is, I'd say, a surefire contender for my best of list at the end of the year. I don't know if he's going to nab the top spot, but he's absolutely going to make the list. It's a great figure. If you're not familiar with the Iron Giant, this it was a movie that came out in 1999. And I regret not seeing it in the theaters. I've seen it so many times since. Like, I own the DVD, and then I bought the Blu-ray, and I love it. I actually just watched it again the other week. I showed my nephews it for the first time. They both really enjoyed it. But in 1999, I was actually going to animation school. And there was some movies coming out that year. I was really excited about The Phantom Menace. The Matrix came out in 1999, and that blew my mind. And the Iron Giant was just kind of under the radar. And, it was kind of notoriously poorly marketed. Like, this movie was not successful when it was in the theaters. It did not make a lot of money, didn't do a big box office. And I think the Warner Brothers that made it realized that was a mistake pretty quickly, because it is a beloved film. Anybody that watches it loves it. It's got a huge cult following now. There should have been tons of toys of this guy back in 1999, but there just wasn't. So yeah, I've been waiting years to get a good Iron Giant figure. The only Iron Giant figure that I have, or had for a really long time, was this little teeny guy. And he came packaged with the VHS copy. So when this movie came out on DVD and VHS back in like 99 or 2000, I was buying the DVD. But and I worked at Blockbuster Video. So I bought my DVD, and we were selling the VHS. And the VHS came wrapped with this little teeny robot, and he was wrapped in the cellophane. And I was really tempted to buy the VHS as well, just so I could get the little figure. But at the time, DVDs were like $40, so I'd already spent $40 on the DVD. I didn't really want to justify to spend another $30 on the tape just to get the figure, but I was definitely tempted to. And then one of my customers was buying the VHS, and I commented about how I wanted to get one of these little figures, and they were like, I don't need the figure, and they gave it to me. So this little teeny figure is basically the only Iron Giant I've had for years and years and years. Now, actually, in the last couple of years, I did get a Funko Pop version of the Iron Giant, which is also pretty cool. But, yeah, this is the kind of figure I've wanted. Just a big action figure. I would have been happy with something even larger, but kind of like I was saying with the NECA Godzillas. At this size, the price is right. And now that I've got a nice collection of 6-inch Godzillas, Iron Giant is probably to scale with them, so he looks really nice sitting on the shelf with these guys, and that's probably where he'll go. Yeah, it's a really cool figure. The articulation is great. So he's got kind of like ball joints. You can see here everything is ball jointed, so you get good movement there. The knee, good range of motion there. Foot articulated. He's got this kind of swivelly torso. Shoulders, lots of good movement there. Again, ball joint. The elbows, the hands. So all really, really cool stuff. And he's got a bunch of accessories as well. So He's got a bunch of extra hands. Oh, and as far as articulation goes too. So of course his head moves, but I love that articulated jaw. That's great. So as far as accessories and stuff go, he's got 6 sets of hands. So you see I've got him currently displayed with like a fist and with kind of a slappy hand. So he's got 2 slappy hands, 2 fists, and then 2 kind of open hands. So you can pop those off relatively easily. You see here, hand. It is easy, I promise. There you go. The hand just pops off like so. So you can switch those out. And then another accessory he has that's really cool is he comes with a little version of Hogarth. Hogarth is the young boy that befriends the Iron Giant in the movie and in the original book that it's based on. And so he's to scale. He's this little teeny guy, and he fits on Iron Giant's shoulder. He also fits in the Iron Giant's palm if you've got the flat slappy hand there. So like that's just a really cool little accessory. Another one that I really like is this S that you can snap onto his chest, and that comes on and off relatively easily, because if you've seen the movie, and if you haven't, I highly recommend you go check it out. But just if you haven't, there's a scene when Hogarth is trying to teach the Iron Giant, things about this planet and everything, and he's showing him his comic books. Iron Giant picks up a comic book with like Atomo, the invading robot, and he gets kind of sad because he says, "Oh, is this me? Am I an invading robot?" And Hogarth says, No, you're more like Superman," and he gives him a Superman comic book, and that really kind of perks the Iron Giant up. And so later, when they're in a scrapyard, he finds this big metal S that probably came off a gas station sign, and he slaps it on his chest and says, "Look at me, I'm Superman." And it's a really cute scene in the movie, so I like that they've given him the S that you can add on there if you like. And the last thing I really want to say about this figure that's really cool is he's got a light up eye function. So if I click a switch, there you go, and his eyes light up. So that is just really cool, because that was a feature in the movie when the character is first introduced, because he crash lands on Earth and there's a ship in the storm, and then he sees the lighthouse in the distance, or what he thinks is the lighthouse, because he sees this like one light beacon, and then the head slowly turns and you realize there's 2 eyes. And so that's kind of the Iron Giant's introduction in the movie, and that's just an awesome little feature. And so considering this figure he's about $30 to $40, depending on where you pick him up from. I picked him up at a specialty store, so he's probably a little bit more expensive. But if you can find him at kind of regular retail, it's probably about $30. And that is a steal for this figure. He's long awaited. I've wanted this figure for 20 years. He looks fantastic. He feels durable, great movement, great accessories. I really couldn't be happier with this guy. So the Iron Giant, this guy is awesome. Okay, so now let's talk about some more big robots. Now, I've always been a toy collector, but there's that kind of the weird period before toy collectors almost didn't exist, because when I was a kid, I collected G.I. Joes, Transformers, He-Man, Star Wars figures, because I played with them as a child. That's what the toys were for. Nowadays, most kids seem to want to play with video games, and a lot of toys, like all the things I'm showing you, are typically made for guys my age, because I grew up in the generation that loved action figures, and so now they make these nicer, more detailed action figures for guys like me, and there's definitely an adult collectible market. But in the 90s, it was kind of a weird transition time, because a lot of the toys I loved as a kid, they'd stopped producing them. There was no more He-Man, no more Transformers, no more G.I. Joe, at least not in the format I knew. They had changed some of these things up to appeal to another generation, and didn't appeal to me. And then McFarlane Toys, they started making Spawn figures, and that kind of really jump-started the adult collectible market. But there was a bit of a slow burn to get that going before other companies got on board with that. So I still wanted to buy toys as like a teenager, not to play with, but just to display and collect. I loved collecting. So I was buying Spawn figures. I was buying the Power of the Force Star Wars figures that Hasbro was putting out. It was the first Star Wars figures that had been out in like a decade since I was a kid. So those were fun. And then Bandai started putting out these Gundam figures. And I had no idea what Gundam was. Like, I knew it was a Japanese anime, but I had never seen an episode of the show. I'd never seen any of the movies. I learned about it more as I started collecting the figures, and I realized that it's a show that's been around since as long as I've been around. I think it was 1979 or something it debuted, and there's been multiple iterations. I don't know if they're all connected or they're kind of separate from one another. So to this day, I still know nothing about them. I've never seen an episode of the show. I did buy a DVD movie. It was called Endless Waltz. And I think it was supposed to be the conclusion to a whole TV series. And I'll be honest, when I watched the movie, I was expecting a lot of really cool robot fights. But instead, it was a lot more soap opera-y. And it was wrapping up storylines with all the human characters that I didn't know. I think I watched the movie once. I wasn't impressed. And I ended up trading it in at the Blockbuster that I worked at. So I no longer have it. But that's my only experience with Gundam figures. And with Gundam as a franchise. But I loved those figures. They really kind of filled a gap for me of when I wanted to collect cool toys. So before G.I. Joe and He-Man and Transformers came back, I was buying Gundams. And I have a nice little collection of probably about 40 of them. And, they were little like 3 3/4 inch figures. They were really cool. I love them. And I still have them displayed. I've got a case up on my wall over there with all these Gundams in it. But I haven't added to that collection in 20 years. Because, it was the late 90s or early 2000s that I was buying those things. And when Bandai stopped making them, because that particular line, it was for the Gundam Wing show, which was the most recent spin-off. And from what I understand, Gundam Wing was not a very popular version of Gundam. It wasn't super well received. And the show didn't last very long. But yeah, I built up a nice little collection of figures. And I have a fondness for these characters, even though I don't know anything about them. Anyway, Gundam has never really gone away. I see it at the comic book shops and stuff, but it's mostly model kits. And I'm not a model guy. I don't want to paint things. I don't want to snap anything together. I just want a toy that comes out of a package. And those have not been readily available for a really long time. And I kind of just forgot about Gundam because there's so much other stuff coming out that I really like and that I love from my childhood. But anyway, just in the last couple of months, there's been a new line of Gundam action figures called Gundam Universe. And I was tempted to maybe order some online. I hadn't seen them at retail anywhere yet. So I didn't have that immediate temptation in front of me, but I thought, you know what, I'm not going to buy these things. I really shouldn't get into buying Gundams. But then Big Bad Toy Store went and put a bunch of them on sale, and I thought, okay, I'm going to buy 2 of them. So I bought the main character from Gundam Wing. So this is Wing Gundam. And so there's some nice artwork on the front of the package. You can see, obviously, I popped him out of here already. But so this is in like the 6-inch scale. They're high quality figures. Got a nice shot of the figure on the side there. A little action shot. Tells you about some of the articulation. There's a little bit of a bio. So like this is literally the most I've ever known about this character. So what's it say here? The Wing Gundam was designed by Dr. J of the Lee colonies and was piloted by the skilled hero Yu. It has a powerful buster rifle that can deliver 3 devastating blasts before needing to be recharged. There you go. That's more than I've ever known about this character. But, so I got him, and you can hear the rattling around in there. He's got some extra hands, so I'm probably going to get rid of these boxes, so I got to remember to take those hands out of there before I scrap them. And then I also picked up Deathscythe. So this guy was like a really cool looking guy, and I always assumed he was a villain. Because he's kind of darkly colored. He's got this big crazy weapon. His name, Deathscythe. He sounds evil. But I think he's just part of the gang. One of the good guys. So there you can see a cool image of him on the back. Again, his bio says, so this stealthy mobile suit from Mobile Suit Gundam Wing 1995 is piloted by Duo Maxwell and is equipped with an ECM system for hiding from enemy sensors, as well as its signature beam scythe and buster shield, a weapon housing a beam blade that can be launched at enemy units. So there you go. So pretty cool. Anyway, who cares about the boxes? Let's take a look at the figures. So here is Wing Gundam outside of the packaging. And yeah, he's really nice. I dig this figure. And I worry that it could lead me down a path of buying more of them. At this point, I'm really only committing to buying one more. They haven't made the character Heavy Arms yet, but that was my favorite toy from Bandai. So when they make a heavy arms in this scale, I'll probably want to pick that up too. But, so yeah, he looks great. Like, he's bright, he's colorful. You know, the white is nice and crisp. Hopefully that doesn't yellow over time. Because, yeah, right now he looks really sharp. The articulation is nice. Like, he's got kind of double jointed knees there. You can twist him at the ankle. He's got good movement. The hands, the elbows, the head. His wings here, so you can see how they kind of fold back, or you can fold forward, and the big and the little wings are articulated. Swivels at the waist here. Yeah, so there's, you know, all the standard movement you'd expect in a current, like, high quality 6-inch figure, like a Marvel Legend or something like that. So yeah, he's nice and posable. You can probably get lots of nice poses out of him. The one thing I will say about this guy that's a little different from a Marvel Legend is this guy feels a little more delicate. Like, even here you see these spikes on his head. Those feel, they're really thin plastic. You know, if this guy tumbles off my shelf onto the floor, he's probably toast. You know, every time I come into my room here, there's a different Marvel Legend or a different He-Man on the floor that's kind of fell off the shelf. And I'm always worried somebody's going to break. So far, everybody stayed in pretty good shape. But yeah, this guy, if I display him, I'm going to have to display him somewhere nice and safe or nice and low. Because, yeah, they feel a little delicate. But, yeah, he looks great for accessories. He's got this big gun here. The thing that it described on his packaging, and I guess that only fires 3 shots, which seems kind of stupid, but still, it's a big, cool gun. Now, so this guy looks great. There were so many cool Gundam designs, and I did have Gundam Wing from the Bandai line when I was younger, and even though he wasn't my favorite, he looked like he would be the lead. And you could kind of tell from his name, Wing Gundam, that he was the star of Gundam Wing, but he just looks like a heroic character. The color scheme, the way he's built. Yeah, he definitely looks like a heroic robot. This guy looks great compared to the little guy that I have. I still think the little Bandai figures are really nice. But the colors aren't as bright on that one. Rather than a nice crisp white, he's got a little bit more of an off-white kind of gray color to him. One thing I do like about the little figure is that besides the big gun, he also came with like a lightsaber, or a laser sword, I think they called them. But, you know, it's really nice. This guy, besides his gun, he also does come with a shield, which is pretty cool. I forgot to put it on here, but I can show it to you in the insert. So the shield just kind of snaps onto his arm, and that's pretty cool. So overall, yeah, I'm pretty pleased with these figures. And, yeah, I could definitely see myself, especially if they keep putting them on sale, I could see myself buying more. So there you go. There's Wing Gundam. So now let's take a look at my other Gundam. So this is Deathscythe. And I assume he gets his name from this big scythe that he carries around with him, like the Grim Reaper. The weapon there, it's got some articulation. You can move that blade up and down. It kind of folds to the side. But yeah, this is a really cool looking figure. So he's not quite black. Although he's blacker than the smaller Bandai version of this figure. The Bandai version was clearly blue. This guy, I don't know, it looks really black when I see him on camera now, but in person it's got a bit of a blue tint to it. But yeah, it looks really nice. I really like this guy's design. I really like his weapon, so I like his scythe. And he also has the shield here. The shield can close up, and you can take this kind of green blade out of it. I think that's supposed to be like a little secret laser beam that comes out of his shield as it opens up. As far as articulation, he's got all the same stuff as Gundam Wing. The knees, the knees, good bend there. The ankles, the waist, the arms, the elbows, you know, everything. His head, also kind of delicate. He's got these small little things here. I actually broke one of these little things off on my Bandai guy. And I don't recall it happening, but it probably just happened when he was in storage. So even the smaller durable ones were a little breakable. So yeah, you got to be careful with these guys, I would imagine. But yeah, he just looks cool as hell. I really like this guy. And also a name. Like Deathscythe is a really cool name. But even more so, I think these guys, they got upgraded as the show went on. Because they would kind of take the same character and they'd release the same figure with just some more weapons or more add-ons. So like Gundam Wing, I have a version of him where he's got kind of these angel wings instead of just the metal fins for wings, so he like evolved. There was a character named like Tall Geese, and then Tall Geese 2, and Heavy Arms, he went from being orange with some guns to being blue with even more guns. And so they upgraded, but their names usually stayed the same. But with Deathscythe here, the first version was Deathscythe, and then the second version was Deathscythe Hell. And like, come on, you don't get any more badass than that. So I will probably have to buy Deathscythe Hell if they make it in this version too, because it's similar in style, but he's got these like vampiric like wings that make him look like a Dracula or something. It's pretty cool. So yeah, I really like these figures. It's kind of a nice change to get something different. Like I've been buying the same stuff, whether it's G.I. Joes or Marvel Legends or Star Wars Black Series. I love all those lines, but you start getting used to like what you're gonna get, and it's kind of like more of the same. So to buy something new, even though I'm a little leery to start collecting a new line, because it's really the last thing I need in my life right now. But yeah, they're just really cool. I like them a lot. So if you're on the fence about this line and thinking of getting into them, I will tell you that they're pretty cool, and they're probably worth your time to at least get a couple of your favorites. So there you go. So that's Deathscythe. So with that is the end of the episode, I guess. I don't know how this is going to turn out. This is the first time I've had to do a video where I kind of sat and talked on camera the whole time. And I don't know how the split screen stuff is going to work out because I haven't filmed that yet. So hopefully it lines up okay and it's not too clunky or awkward. I'm sure there's stuff I forgot to talk about because where I'm doing this is one long stream of consciousness. I might remember later there was other things I wanted to say about these figures, but I'll just try and keep improving. I've got a lot of new stuff to show you, as I told you at the start of the episode, so I've got enough stuff lined up for at least 2 more episodes that I hope to get out in relatively quick succession. So stay tuned for those. And yeah, if this split screen thing here worked out, you'll probably see it again. But if you enjoyed it, if you like it, please let me know below. If you've got any tips or pointers, I appreciate that stuff as well. So with that, I think I'll sign off. So thank you very much for watching. Subscribe, like, comment, and I will see you next time. Ciao.